welcome back to Fun with Fiber Pins number 5. So we've made a few changes on the layout and additions, and as you can see, the wires are getting a little more extensive on this little surface wired layout. So I'll just go over what I've changed here and for why I did it. But the old number 2 transformer, 75 watt, just wasn't quite cutting it. So I've got this 8B with the breaker. It's a 100 watt transformer. And if we take a look at the old stuff on the front. And this one is actually my uncle's test transformer. So it has some history with the layout. You'll also notice that I've disconnected the rectiformer. I tried running this with DC and AC power on the layout, and I found out it just wasn't enough juice. And we'll take a look at it here in the instruction manuals, but there's some special wiring that they had to do with the rectifier or the rectiformer and AC accessories. So to make this layout work right with the equipment that I have on hand, I had to switch completely to AC. So we're still going to do some 2-train operations, but for right now we have the log car hooked up. We've got a control button here. We still have the lockout eliminator. We have the switch, and also something else we've done. We've hooked up the log loader, and using my little multi-purpose switch, I've got a whistle now. So that's kind of fun. And if you haven't seen my video on that from before, if you look on the multi-purpose switch, I can run up to 4 different accessories just using the little Fonstock clips out in the middle of the layout. So right now this one is just hooked up to the whistle. Gotta love that sound. So a little while back on the American Flyer Facebook page, there was an interesting question. Somebody had asked about having a single stub-ended siding and being able to operate an operating car with their accessory and at the same time have a locomotive that stays in place on the siding while they run another train around the outside. Well, what I found with these switches, so you would think that if you took this and you went to regular operation, it would allow electricity to go through to the siding and the locomotive, and you need to have the base post power to this near rail to get that car to work. But if you look at it now, if I open the throttle, there's nothing there. And if I try to operate the car, we don't have any power there. So to get it to work, we need to make the switch over to the siding. And now we can actually get the train to run. And we line it up there. Now we can we can machine gun Kelly the little car off the rails. So we'll have to put on some logs here. So if you want to load this car, you can do it anytime. So like if I go back to green on the switch, you can we can go ahead and load the car. Drop it down here for you. I love doing this at train shows because then I have somebody come up and I say, hit that button. And it scares the heck out of them. So anyways, we're loading up the car and we just lost that log. That was great. So here we have our loaded car. But because we don't have any power to the siding and the main is, or the switches to the main line, I'm not able to unload the cars. I also have no power to the train, which is part of the equation. We didn't want it to run so that the trains can run around the outside. But if we want to have it be able to dump, we need to take the switch to red. So we're on the siding. And if we watch it now, I can take the button and dump those cars. So our goal today is to be able to add a fiber pin right here, and we're going to power up this section of rail so we can operate our log loader no matter when the train is running around the track, and it will operate every time. And we can also park a locomotive in these two track sections right here, and the train will not run. And also we can have the switch set to the main line and a train can be running around the outside. So let's check out that fiber pin op. So here we've replaced our metal pin with one of our fiber pins. Now, something I want to caution folks on is these things are really fragile. And what you'll notice is sometimes they go in a little bit hard because you have these little notches in the rail that are designed to hold the metal pins in place. And you can see the two notches basically right here, and then the one, of course, over on the rail right here. And it goes in, and that's what holds these pins in place. It's very hard to pull them out without bending them up. This one came out fairly straight, and I straightened it a little bit. But if you were to put that metal pin back in, you probably want to line it up so those two notches go with those notches. But in this case, when you're pushing that pin in, it'll interfere with a little bit, and you have to be very careful. And so that's going to go with the same concept with this other side here. So I'm going to try and do this just on video and see if I can't get this track together here. Now this side is probably going to go a little easier because it doesn't have the same notches and etc. So there you have it. We're all hooked up there. I had an interesting comment on one of my previous videos on the fiber pins, and they were concerned about the big gap. You know, how do you put these in here and then keep it from having this heavy-duty bend and keeping the track aligned? And how do you clean that? And we kind of had a discussion on it, and one of the options, he actually suggested putting a drop of solder. You know, after cleaning the rail and the pin, put a little drop of solder and then filing it down so that you don't get as much of the good old track gook and dirt and carbon black that you'll get on rails sometimes when you have these fiber pin installations. I think on a permanent layout, that would be a really good option. But in this case, since I'm just doing mostly my temporary layout, we're just going to go ahead and leave it like this. So our next step is just going to be to power up this base post section, the near rail that is behind the fiber pin, so that we'll have power to the metal wheel on the operating car. And then the 15-volt post is what powers the rail, and that will allow our car to operate at any time. So let me get that track trip set up. So now we've hooked up our blocked section behind the fiber pin with a wire that runs from the base post rail on the siding to the base post connection on the main line. So we're going to get base post power to this rail. We're not going to get complete electrical service over here. So what we should get is our locomotive can back around. We can park our car on the operating section. We can park our locomotive in this section, flip the switch to the main line, and operate a second locomotive as we operate the log loader at our leisure. Because if we remember, if this is switched over to green, we weren't able to use the log loader, or unload the car anyways. So let's back our train in and we'll get it all set up. Here we come. Now, hopefully in one of the next iterations of this layout, I will go ahead and have an uncoupler in this little section somewhere so I don't have to do this manually. But we're going to leave that car there. We're going to pull our engine forward, and then we're going to give all this a shot. Okay, so we have our control button. We have our train over here, and we'll set our switch to the main line. And if you remember before, we didn't have any juice to the car. But now that we have power to the base post rail and the car's side pickup is on the 15-volt post connected to our control button, we get Machine Gun Kelly again. So I just think that's pretty cool. So if we go back over here, we'll back our engine into the picture and we'll run it around. So now I can work my log loader as much as I want. Watch my train go around. And then we're all set to go. And then unload. Now we're going to take our engine. We can come back, go to red, and park in this section. We get it ready to go. We go to green. We have power to the red light on the bumper, but the train won't move. So there you have that. So now I'm going to go grab another little locomotive, and we will give this whole setup a try. So we've pulled out our trusty little 355 Baldwin, and we're just going to do a little two-train operation. So what's really nice, we can have this switch. See, it's in regular operation right now. And if we look at it, even though that switch is to the main line, we get power to the rail car, but we don't get any power to the locomotive. So essentially, we can watch our train go around the outside, and then we can still operate our accessory while the train's running. We'll slow him down, a little more prototype speed there. So now, with this section behind our fiber pin powered up, we can operate our log car and our log loader independently of the locomotive on that track. If you remember before, if it's even in regular operation, we didn't have any juice going to the track. So now, if we switch over, we can actually pull our locomotive out onto the main line, and we can unload our log car, and the lockout eliminator is still in effect. So we can go back to green and we protect the switch, and then we can load our car at will. I guess he didn't like that log. There we go. Fun and games with good old American Flyer. So, there you have it. Even on regular operation, we can watch our train run. We can operate our log loader or whatever accessory you choose. We now have the capability of blowing the whistle. And there you have it.